America. On the side of freedom, you have the world's richest man, Elon Musk, getting one step closer to liberating Twitter from censorship-crazy liberals. The Tesla CEO says he secured more than $46 billion for his potential takeover. And on the other side, you have former President Barack Obama, who is pushing for more censorship online.
The First Amendment is a check on the power of the state. It doesn't apply to private companies like Facebook or Twitter. While content moderation can limit the distribution of clearly dangerous content, it doesn't go far enough. And so much of the conversation around disinformation is focused on what people post. The bigger issue is what content these platforms promote.
If Obama gets his way, get ready for more of this, according to a new study by the Media Research Center. Big tech giants have censored Biden criticism 646 times over 2 years. I can read. All right, Judge, listen, in Obama's speech, right, talking about free speech and disinformation and content moderation, he never talked about the Wuhan lab, never talked about Hunter Biden laptop, never talked about Russia collusion. So all the big stories of disinformation that we've all experienced over the course of the last 5 years, he didn't mention, but it's the Steve Bannons of the world that are the real threat.
You know, what I find most interesting is the timing of all of this. Now that we have Elon Musk getting closer to taking over Twitter, Barack Obama, former president of the United States, comes out and starts talking about the First Amendment and the moderation of that concept that is so fundamental to who we are, and it makes us the freest country in the world. The First Amendment, the freedom to speak, the freedom to practice religion, and the freedom to assemble. I mean, all of that is fundamental to who we are. And this concept that somehow they can stop us from communicating, and make no mistake, when we communicate by email, we years ago would have done it by mail. And now we're doing it by email. And they are looking at our communications, my emails, my letters, so to speak, to another person and saying, you can't say that, you can't say that, and we're going to take you off so you can't repeat this. This is the antithesis of the Constitution and what free speech is all about. And what Obama is doing is he is cultivating now the concept that we can moderate things, content moderation, and now we can get rid of disinformation, which leads us to the place where if you don't agree with what I think, you will be shut down. And we've been battling this since Biden came in, even before that, even before the election, when all of a sudden a newspaper cannot be transmitted or tweeted, or our comments about what is in the news, or 51 intelligence officers lying and saying it's Russian disinformation. Do they think that we're that stupid that they need to tell us what we can and cannot read? This infuriates me. He is wrong on this. This is un-American. Free speech is fundamental, and when we lose it, we're gone.
So I think it's interesting. Obama there started the speech off by saying, I'm a First Amendment fundamentalist. You can't infringe on the First Amendment. Then he spent the rest of the speech undermining free speech and the whole speech, the First Amendment. But Harold, I mean, to you, I think it's interesting because free speech is not about protecting speech that we agree with. Free speech is about protecting speech we disagree with. And isn't it better that we all engage in the arena of debate and ideas, and the best ideas will rise to the top? Isn't that been the American way?
Without question. I think when we say we're free speech absolutists, we're all fudging a little bit, because the court has said you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. We see a prominent case that is taking place, I think, between two actors in Virginia that based on libel and defamation. So there's certain things you can't say and that the law protects. That being the case, you're right, Sean, in terms of I want free speech. I want a free debate. Some of this harkens back a little bit to the conversations we were having around education and some of the things that were being taught in schools. I think it's important that we present ideas that may unsettle people, right? For us to be able to have these conversations and have these debates. And even if the best ideas don't rise, at least we inform and educate people about what the issues are. And finally, we should not be mistaken. Elon Musk is pursuing this. He's the richest man in the world. He sends people to space. He makes electric cars. He makes batteries, or he buys batteries. He's doing this for an economic. This is a guy that knows his way around a balance sheet and a profit sheet. So at the end of the day, if there were not money to be made doing this, I doubt he would be doing it.
Yes, and Katie, isn't it fair that the founders actually believed that we didn't want a ministry of truth? We wanted to actually let the debate happen?
Listening to Barack Obama say that the First Amendment is only a check on the state makes me question why he wouldn't want the First Amendment to apply to big corporations, and to corporations especially that make all of their money on speech, people being able to talk about things. But then I look back at who President Obama really is, and he is a student of Saul Alinsky, and Saul Alinsky teaches in Rules of Radicals, if you control the narrative, you control information, you then control the media, and you control everything. And he talked about how, free speech is not being able to disseminate or post clearly dangerous content. Well, to the left, clearly dangerous content is things like Hunter Biden's laptop. It's things about the Wuhan lab. It's basic things about gender and biology. And so they've shifted from actually dangerous incitement content to any kind of content that they deem a risk for their political prospects. That's right. And that's why they have no credibility on this. But I think it's highly alarming that the President of the United States, the former president, is perfectly fine with these monster corporations going after certain speech that he just simply doesn't like.
And only one-sided.
Right.
Greg, final word.
Well, as you know, I'm an expert on the Constitution. And when Obama says there is no First Amendment protection on social media platforms because they're private, he's actually right.
Yes.
But it's also wrong because these platforms have now become the single most dominant platform for the exchange of information, right? So they aren't like other media entities. I think what he does is he wants you to believe it's just like Fox News or the New York Times, in which there is no obligation for us to host other people's ideas. This is our show. You can't come on here. This is, Fox, you know what I'm saying? But that is not this, right? Denying access to Facebook or to Twitter is essentially denying access to the modern town square. Exactly. It's not like the New York Times. It's not like any other place. I think the bigger issue, which I touched on yesterday, is you cannot trust the credibility of any obvious partisan or politician with an ideology to moderate content, because what you're going to get is content removal that only flows in one direction. You would call it viewpoint discrimination, right? It only works on behalf, in this case, I think, when you look at the Hunter laptop and Russian collusion, it seems to only flow on behalf of the left, which is why they don't mind. But once it gets more balanced, and let's say you do have an Elon Musk take over Twitter, because I think he is credible, because I have no idea what his politics are. I would assume he's probably a libertarian, but I don't know if he's a Republican. I don't know if he's a Democrat. I find that really healthy that I don't know. So once that happens, and you might see viewpoint discrimination happen in both directions, because I put out a viewpoint and then somebody puts out a counter viewpoint and it all shows up on Twitter. That's the way it should be.
Well, and Sean, you know this, but they've been trying to censor talk radio by conservatives since the 90s. So this is not new. It's just a different medium.
If Harold and I were able to censor our opponents when we ran for Congress, the power of that was immense. We wouldn't have to spend any money to run races, because it's only our viewpoint that's out there.
Hey, Sean.